We might have just gotten our first look at the major plot details for Saw 11, and if these leaks are true, they could completely change the game for the entire franchise. A massive new rumor suggests that John Kramer is back, but this time he's not the only one picking the victims. The series is apparently about to take a hard left turn into full-blown vigilante justice, with Jigsaw himself empowering ordinary, frustrated people to get their own revenge. This wouldn't just be another sequel with crazier traps. We're talking about a fundamental shift in the whole philosophy of Saw. For years we've watched John Kramer pass judgment from his self-made moral high ground, but now it looks like he might be ready to hand over his tools, his methods, and his entire mission to the public. If this leak has any truth to it, Saw 11 could become the most politically charged and relevant story in the entire series, maybe even bigger than the social commentary that made Saw 6 such a fan favorite. But with the movie's production facing some serious trouble, the real question is this a brilliant new direction we'll get to see, or just the ghost of a movie that will never happen? So, let's get into the meat of this rumor, because it really is a bombshell. The leak, which has been making the rounds in insider circles, claims that the plot of Saw 11 is all about John Kramer helping a group of fed-up, everyday citizens. Think of it as Jigsaw-approved vigilantism. Instead of John targeting people for their private sins, the addicts, the corrupt executives, the scammers, he'd be turning his focus to the bigger systems of power that make people desperate to begin with. This idea lines up perfectly with a comment from one of the franchise's original writers, Patrick Melton, who said the goal was to tell a very timely story. That's exactly the playbook that made Saw 6 hit so hard back in 2009. That movie went right after the predatory American healthcare and insurance industries, and it connected with audiences who were living through that exact debate in the real world. This new leak suggests the filmmakers are trying to catch that same lightning in a bottle. The concept would see John Kramer's games used not to punish one person's moral failure, but as a weapon for people who have been kicked down. Imagine a town being slowly poisoned by a corporation that's cutting corners. In the old Saw movies, John might put the CEO in a trap. In this new version, he might give the tools, the place, and the plan to the victims themselves, and let them design the test for their own oppressor. This completely reframes John Kramer. He's no longer just a methodical killer playing God from the shadows, he's an enabler, a channel for righteous anger. He becomes less of a judge and more of an anarchist folk hero, giving the powerless the means to finally hold the powerful accountable. This changes everything we know about his rules. The classic Jigsaw line is "I want to play a game." It's a challenge from him to his subject. This new idea flips the whole script. The new motto could be, "They want to play a game," with John just setting the stage for a reckoning that other people have demanded. It's a populist twist on his philosophy, arguing that a true appreciation for life can only be taught when the people who've been wronged are the ones teaching the lesson. It suggests that John has finally realized his one-man war on individual sins is just a drop in the ocean. To really make a difference, he has to weaponize the collective anger of society itself. This isn't just about one person learning to appreciate their life, it's about forcing an entire system to appreciate the lives it has broken. This might sound like a wild departure, but if you look at the franchise's history, it starts to feel like a natural, if shocking, next step. The comparison to Saw 6 is the key piece of the puzzle. The movie worked because it tapped into the public anger of the late 2000s. People were furious about the financial crisis and the healthcare debate, which made the audience ready to cheer for a sleazy insurance executive getting what he deserved. The traps in Saw 6 weren't just about gore, they were cathartic. The shotgun carousel, where William Easton had to choose which of his employees would die, was a brutal stand-in for the life or death decisions insurance companies made every day. This leaked direction for Saw 11 seems to be aiming for the same thing. We're living in a time of intense political division, massive economic anxiety, and a deep distrust in our institutions. A story about regular people taking a stand against their oppressors isn't just timely, it's the story we see in our headlines every single day. A movie that channels that rage into the visceral framework of Saw could be incredibly powerful. On top of that, this pivot could solve one of the franchise's biggest hurdles, the John Kramer problem. Tobin Bell is the absolute heart of this series, but his character has been dead since Saw 3. The movies since then have had to do some serious narrative backflips, flashbacks, prequels, secret apprentices, just to keep him around. While Saw X was a masterful prequel, you can only squeeze so many stories into the past before it starts feeling unbelievable. Producer Oren Cooley's even hinted that a direct continuation from Saw X, which left the villain Cecilia in a tough spot, was a strong option, keeping the story in that prequel timeframe. But this new concept offers a different way out. By changing John's role from a hands-on killer to a philosophical guide or even a posthumous inspiration, his presence could be felt without him needing to physically be there. His recordings, his manifestos, his trap blueprints, they could become a legacy that other people find and carry on. It would let the franchise finally move forward and evolve beyond the man, while still keeping his twisted vision at its center. He would become a symbol, an ideology of Jigsaw that anyone could adopt. This frees the story from the tight constraints of the timeline and opens the door for new characters and new stories, all happening under the dark shadow of John Kramer's original work. This also fits with other rumors that Saw 11 could be more of a standalone story, maybe even set in the future, which would give this new idea plenty of room to grow. So if this populist, vigilante Jigsaw is the new angle, who's getting trapped? This is where the idea gets really exciting and opens up a whole world of social commentary the series hasn't touched since Saw 6. The new victims wouldn't be people chosen for their private failings, they would be public figures, symbols of everything wrong with society today. Let's start with the obvious: corrupt politicians. Imagine a trap designed by a community whose water was knowingly poisoned just to save a city some money. The trap could be a twisted filtration system, forcing the politician to drink the contaminated water unless they complete a task that makes them sacrifice something they value: money, power, their public image, all represented physically. The game isn't just about survival, it's political theater, a brutal and public takedown of their hypocrisy. Then you've got the corporate giants. Think about a tech CEO who profits from selling our data and invading our privacy. Their test could be getting locked in a room where their darkest secrets are broadcast to the world, one by one. The only way to stop it is to endure a physical pain that matches the emotional damage their privacy invasions have caused. It would literally turn their own mantra of "if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear" into a torture device. We could also see figures from the gig economy, the billionaires who built empires on the backs of underpaid, overworked drivers. A group of these workers could be the ones to design the trap. Maybe the billionaire is forced into a life-or-death version of the same job they created, having to complete a series of grueling deliveries through a deadly obstacle course in an impossible amount of time. If they fail, they suffer the same consequences: exhaustion, injury, or worse, that their business model puts their workers through every single day. And what about the media manipulators? The cable news hosts or social media influencers who knowingly spread lies for profit and political points. Their trap could be a labyrinth of misinformation. They'd be fed conflicting instructions and false clues and would have to sort the truth from the lies to find their way out. One wrong choice, one belief in a lie, leads to a dead end or a gruesome fate. Their game would be a terrifying real-world consequence for poisoning public discourse. Each of these scenarios does something vital. It makes the traps mean something again, beyond just the gore. The pain is directly and thematically tied to the pain the victim inflicted on society, and because the games are run by the victims themselves, it adds a layer of moral and emotional complexity that would be completely new to the series. This radical new mission wouldn't just change John Kramer's legacy, it would throw his apprentices into a full-blown crisis of faith. The dynamic between John, Amanda, and Hoffman has always been one of the most fascinating parts of the Saw story. How would they handle this populist turn? Hey bulls, let's start with Amanda Young. Her connection to John was deeply personal. She believed in his work because she was living proof of it. She saw his games as a twisted kind of therapy, a way to force people to face their demons, just like she did. But her empathy was also her flaw. She made her traps unwinnable because, deep down, she didn't think people could really change. She couldn't separate her own trauma from the tests. This new direction would probably shatter her worldview. Would she get behind a mission to help the little guy? Or would she see it as a betrayal of John's core belief: individual accountability? Amanda might argue that John's method was about saving a single person's soul, not about waging a broad societal war. She might see this new mission as messy and chaotic, lacking the cold, controlled purpose of John's original games. It could put her in direct conflict with John's new philosophy, making her believe he'd lost his way. It would be a fascinating conflict for a character defined by her loyalty. Then there's Detective Mark Hoffman. Hoffman was never a true believer like Amanda. He was a copycat, a monster who used John's methods for his own revenge and sadistic kicks. He loved the power, the violence, and feeling smarter than everyone else. He didn't care about saving souls, he cared about punishing people he thought deserved it, and he loved every second of the brutality. On one hand, Hoffman might be perfect for this new mission. A Jigsaw-led revolution, an army of angry citizens ready to hurt the powerful. It sounds like his dream come true. He could create his most vicious traps yet, all under the cover of a righteous cause. He wouldn't care about the philosophy, he'd just see a bigger body count and more deserving victims. But it's also possible he'd hate it. Hoffman is a narcissist. He wants the credit. The idea of just helping other people get revenge, of being a weapon for the masses, might insult him. He doesn't want to empower others. He wants to be the one in charge. He might see it as John outsourcing his art, turning it into a crude tool for the mob. This new direction would create an incredible ideological split between the apprentices, turning their already tense relationship into a ticking time bomb. Amanda, the troubled idealist, versus Hoffman, the cynical sadist, fighting over the true meaning of Jigsaw's legacy. It's a conflict that could easily power a whole new trilogy of films. Alright, so after all that exciting speculation, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. The production of Saw 11 is, to put it lightly, in trouble. While this leaked concept is incredible, its path to the screen has been anything but smooth. The film was originally given a prime release date of September 27, 2024, a huge vote of confidence after Saw 10's success. That date was then pushed a full year to September 26, 2025, which was the first red flag. Then came the bigger blow. In a devastating update for fans, it was announced that Saw 11 was being pulled from the 2025 release calendar completely. Its September slot was given to The Strangers Chapter 2 instead. A film being taken off the schedule entirely is never a good sign. Reports from insiders have described a project that's completely stalled out. As of early 2024, the film was supposedly in pre-production, but production reportedly stopped because of major creative arguments and conflicts between the producers and the studio, Lionsgate. According to co-writer Patrick Melton, there has been no forward movement since May 2024. So, what does this mean for the leak? It's possible this whole People's Jigsaw idea was the very thing they were all fighting about. Maybe the studio thought it was too political, too risky, or too different from the formula that works. Or maybe this concept was the amazing pitch that got the movie approved in the first place, and the fights were over how to actually do it. Whatever the reason, the film we were expecting is currently dead in the water, but that doesn't mean the game is over forever. An official social media account for Billy the Puppet posted a cryptic message hinting that the game isn't over, suggesting that while this chapter might be closed, the Book of Saw is not. This brings us to the ultimate question. This leak gives us a bold, exciting, and incredibly relevant idea for the future of Saw. It's a version of the franchise that feels urgent and needed. But for now, it's a vision that's stuck in production hell. So, I have to ask you, what do you think of this People's Jigsaw concept? Is this the direction you want the series to take? And who would be at the top of your list for a modern-day Jigsaw trap? Let me know your most creative ideas down in the comments below. And if you're a fan of deep dives into your favorite horror franchises, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. At the end of the day, the story of the Saw 11 leak is a really frustrating one. It gives us a peek at a film that could have been a true return to form. A movie that wasn't just another sequel but a real evolution of the entire franchise. The idea of John Kramer empowering the public is a stroke of genius. A concept that feels perfectly designed for the anxieties of our time. It keeps all the core things that make Saw great. The intricate traps, the moral philosophy, Tobin Bell's presence, while pushing the story somewhere new, While the production halt and removal from the release schedule are a huge letdown, great ideas in Hollywood rarely stay dead forever. This concept is too strong, too timely, and too full of potential to just be thrown away. It's possible that this isn't the end, but just a pause. The producers might be rethinking things, waiting for the right moment, or planning to bring this idea back in a future movie or even a reboot. This leak has done more than just spoil a potential plot. It's given the fanbase a new ideal to root for. It has shown us what Saw could be at its very best, not just a horror movie but a dark mirror held up to the society we live in. For now, Saw the 11th of May be in limbo, but the idea it represents is alive and kicking. And as Billy the Puppet himself promised, the game is far from over. We'll just have to wait and see who presses play next.